Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of the Doppio podcast. My name is Emil, and I am joined today by my two lovely co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Castleman, and I'm trying to do better.
Hi, I'm Renzo, and the power of Lundy in the palm of my hand.
So, today we are going to be talking about Sam Raimi's masterpiece, Spider-Man 2. So, honestly, I really did not expect us to be talking about this film so early on into us doing this podcast. It's we touched on this in the previous episode on the Raimi, the first one. But these movies mean a lot to us, but this one is just kind of undoubtedly the best movie of the three. Just no questions about it. And I think the best superhero movie ever made, and it's my personal favorite movie ever. So I honestly wasn't super ready to talk about this so soon after talking about Evangelion and Dune, but the stars aligned and these movies happened to be in theaters, and it just made a lot of sense for us to talk about, and I'm so happy to be doing so. So I think we should start off. Let's mention the fact that the movies are back in theaters. Spider Mondays. We all watched it in theaters.
I saw it twice.
I saw it twice as well, and once I actually saw it in 35mm as well, which was excellent.
Yeah, you saw it Monday and Tuesday, and I saw it Monday and Thursday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because thank God they actually expanded these movies beyond just freaking Mondays.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was able to check this. It's funny. I saw this movie in theaters with a friend. He's a little bit older than me, so he had actually been able to see Spider-Man 2 when it came out in 2004 in theaters. So, but he hadn't seen it, but he, of course, he had only saw it in a theater once back in 2004. So this was his second time seeing it in a movie theater, and the gap between those viewings was 20 years. And this was, but seeing it with him, it was my second time seeing it in a movie theater, and the gap there was 3 days.
Well, yeah, seeing this movie in a theater is truly a magical experience and very different from watching it at home with your, home speakers and stuff.
Yeah.
But, one of the great things about this movie really is Raimi's he knows how to make an audience laugh at the right moments. And you don't really feel that at home, but when you're in a movie theater, you really, really get that, it's like Raimi builds these for a crowd. Builds these experiences. So, I wanted to kind of ask as we start, usually on the show. I'll ask Renzo.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What are your experiences with this movie like? What's your kind of past with it? Tell us about your relationship with this film.
I mean, as any kid growing up back in the early 2000s, Spider-Man was a big deal for me. I saw the first one in theaters, and as with the second one, like any other kid with the luxury of like going to the movies, Spider-Man 2 was coming out. My parents took me to see it. It was also a sold out screening, and just going in, like this one, like if the first one was great, like, but this one is like truly like amazing. We're in, like, no pun intended, he is the amazing Spider-Man, but truly this one was a game changer of superhero cinema, and like honestly, like cinema itself. Like Sam Raimi truly like pushed the limits of what he can tell. Also,
this is the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Another another experience of mine growing up with in relation to like Spider-Man 2. I've seen this movie so many. So Spider-Man 1, I've seen it so many times with a VCD player. But Spider-Man 2 was the movie that I mostly watch on my dad's iPod. I know it's a crime to watch a movie in your small device, but my dad had an iPod, and I would constantly ask him, "Hey, Dad, can you lend me your iPod because I want to watch Spider-Man 2?" And that's how many like so many times that I've seen this movie was through my dad's iPod because he bought it on iTunes, I
This is
think.
a dad's
So
iPod
yeah,
movie.
the dad's iPod movie. My dad understands. So
Yeah.
yeah, great.
Oh.
That's my relationship with this movie. Like growing up to share a history with it.
So yeah, Castleman, what's your relationship with Spider-Man 2 specifically, and how did it feel to be sitting in that theater, waiting for the as the credits started? How did that moment feel for you?
It's weird because unlike this unlike Spider-Man 1, I don't think I have a specific story about the first time I saw Spider-Man 2. I think it was I just got the DVD after I got the DVD for Spider-Man and I watched it. And basically that was it. And it was definitely like a very special experience to me. Like it was like I think I've always preferred this to the first one. And I've always loved this movie. Like throughout my entire life, this movie has always been like, even when I had a slightly cringe era in like 2012 through 2014, when I was really into the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and I kind of was not giving the Sam Raimi movies enough credit, I always still like Spider-Man 2. And like then when I revisited the first two Raimi films back in 2015, that's the moment where I truly, I think, 100% fell in love with this movie. I fell in love with it to a degree that, like, I just can't really describe how much this film means to me. I'm definitely going to try over the course of however long this podcast is going to be. But this movie has developed into meaning so many different things to me. And I'm able to interpret so many different themes from the story and characters and themes that maybe wasn't intended, but like it entirely means that way to me. Like, and this movie's got me through some tough times in my life. Like the last time I had actually seen it since was back in 2021. I had kind of a rough patch in my life right at that moment, and I rewatched Spider-Man 2, and everything was right again. It was just like that little magical moment where it's just like, yeah, this movie means everything. But after I saw that back then, I was like, I will not rewatch this film until I can see it in a movie theater, however long it takes. Thankfully, it only took about 2 years to get there. And here we are now. I have now seen Spider-Man 2 in a movie theater, and I've seen it twice.
Very exciting.
And here we are, here we are celebrating it.
So when's the next time you're gonna watch Spider-Man 2?
I don't know. When it gets an IMAX movie release, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, well, putting that in stone. Spider-Man 2 is my favorite movie. I have a poster of it up on my wall, like a movie theater size poster. And every day I wake up and I look at it and I'm like, damn, that's my motivation. I need to make a movie as good as that one day. No, but I kid. That is jokes. Yeah, no, this is my favorite movie, and I actually was lucky enough to see it not quite in a theater, but in a sort of like group setting at the Empire State Building back in November. And I wrote a very long and emotional letterbox review about what the movie means to be in that, and I'll kind of save the emotional aspect of this from this podcast, and I'll just refer you guys to that letterbox review I wrote. It's pinned in my profile. Our letterbox profiles are all in the description of every podcast, so check us out. And if you go to mine and you go to my pin, you can read that, and that's my personal feelings on Spider-Man 2 and what it means to me specifically. But yeah, so this is my first time seeing it in a proper movie theater. And I gotta say, yeah, this movie is just built for a crowd. It was so magical, and seeing it in 35 millimeter, like on film, actually, and it was like an old print, clearly, like one that they just had used back in the day when it was being screened, and it was just awesome, and the color was just so great, and it just like didn't look like my Blu-rays or any of my transfers that I've seen since then. So it was pretty magical experience, and yeah. So I actually also rewatched this on. I rewatched this as well twice, and I wanted to, before we kind of jump into the meat and potatoes of the movie. I did want to acknowledge the fact that Kafka watched Spider-Man 2.1 for the first time.
Yeah. So you guys rewatched like the theatrical cut. I, on the other hand, like it's a rewatch, but it's the 2.1 cut. So there you go. Different experience for me this time around.
I like the 2.1 cut, but it is the worst version of the movie.
I do not like the 2.1 cut. Honestly, like having seen the 2.1 cut, it kind of taints the experience that I've had for so many years. And a part of me kind of regrets actually kind of checking out the 2.1 cut, because honestly, like the additional scenes that are in the movie, like especially like Mary Jane's, is pretty nice. Maybe they should have kept that one on the theatrical, but in all honesty, like they should have like deleted, like, I don't know, the theatrical is just magical in itself, like that's way more magical. This like new cut is like not for me. I don't get, like, no, not a
I
fan.
think it's fun,
Okay.
and it contains a few scenes that I think my favorite scene from the 2.1 cut is not even the one where Jonah is in the costume. That is pretty fun though. It's the scene where MJ is talking to her friends, because I feel like that movie, that moment just gives her a little bit more agency. But
they should have kept that in the movie itself. Like I'd be fine if they kept that.
Yeah,
honestly,
I agree.
But yeah. So, but there's a lot in here. And I'm just trying to think of how we can dig into it. And I would kind of want to pick my favorite scene from this movie. But I don't think I have a favorite scene from this movie.
Castleman, every scene is our favorite scene for Spider-Man 2.
No, like, because like I can't like specifically sit down and be like, oh, this scene is the best scene, because every single scene in this movie is perfectly engineered to be so actually important to in some level of plot, character, story, and it's kind of the perfect movie. It is a perfect movie. It flows scene by scene perfectly into each other. It's all interlocked in the most brilliantly connected way. The dialogue is insanely good. The ways that it sometimes just comes around and really it reinforces itself by the end. This movie is just chock full of like all-time great movie scenes, movie lines. There's just so much to unpack in here.
Yeah.
So something really interesting I found out about this movie. Alvin Sargent, the screenwriter of this film, also wrote Paper Moon.
Yeah.
Which is a movie that I've studied in film school. It's
I've never seen Paper Moon, actually.
I've seen Paper Moon. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
okay,
very good.
I'll put that on the list for me to watch.
Very good movie.
I should add Paper Moon.
When I was in Atlanta, Castleman, I remember I almost bought the Paper Moon VHS.
Oh.
Are we spoiling that this is a Paper Moon VHS movie?
No, I think this is better than
kidding, I'm kidding.
I think Spider-Man 2 is better than Paper Moon. Sue me.
I'm kidding.
But anyways, so yeah, there's a lot of talent behind this movie. Bill Pope, excellent cinematographer. Sam Raimi. Raimi is fucking firing on all cylinders in this one. He is locked in, and he is. It feels like every single aspect of this movie is working in tandem towards the same like purpose of making Peter Parker's life as miserable as possible, and always having a place to escalate to. And it had the everything, the editing, cinematography, performances, directing, blocking, color, everything is built around that and the idea of choice.
Yeah.
It has a rhythm to it, and it just like works so well. And you really forget that it's a 2-hour movie because it feels like it goes by so quickly.
Oh no, I this movie has some of the best pacing in any blockbuster out there.
Yeah.
Because it's all of it is so deliberate, and I'm halfway through the second act before any time it feels like it's past it all. Like it's just kind of an electric movie, and what's also so amazing about that, I feel like this is the most that a superhero movie, because I don't think any since have really done this, but this is the most a superhero movie has really ever focused on this much human small scale stuff.
Yeah.
Because that is like the hero loses his powers for a good chunk of the movie, and it's just his personal life, and the personal life stuff is just as compelling as every other scene in the movie. It's all such genuinely compelling, gripping stuff, and like that's the thing. I've talked about this before, but like I love the Spider-Verse movies, but they will never be my favorite Spider-Man movies because none of them are able to dig in to the personal, real, down-to-earth stuff that I think to me is a key part of Spider-Man. And they are there in the Spider-Verse films, but they're not as much of the main focus because they gotta do a bunch of wacky stuff and gotta go around showing all these amazing art styles, and I love that. But when it comes to Spider-Man, when it comes to what I love about this character, it's about that duality, and it's about the duality of the superheroics with a real person living his real life. And Spider-Man 2 is what has brought that central conceit of what Spider-Man is to the forefront the most out of any other film about this character.
Yeah. And
yeah.
and honestly, like having like I mentioned like in the previous episode, especially like with Spider-Man 1, wherein Spider-Man 1 the way how it speaks to me is how like it reminds me of like my puberty and like when I was growing up and how I'm adjusting to that. Spider-Man 2 on the other hand speaks to me more as to the person that I am right now. Like whatever Peter Parker is feeling is what I am currently feeling. Like I had in my notes like literally like the stakes in modern cape films, the world ending scenarios, like the grand scale, everything is like world ending, and these superheroes have to face these problems. And like when you look at Spider-Man 2, it's just as heavy for like as those like world ending scenarios, because look at what Peter Parker experiences in this movie. Like he's trying to keep things all together, and like if you experience that, like everyone else experienced this, we're in like you're trying to balance everything, and at the same time everything just keeps falling apart, and you're trying to basically just like save yourself or save like whatever it is that you're going for, you know. And I don't know, that's the beauty of like Spider-Man.
And I feel like this is the quintessential Spider-Man story.
Yeah,
it just is. Like, I mean, you can argue, oh, like there's other adaptations that may have Peter Parker's personality a little bit more accurate or whatever. But in terms of an overall story about Peter Parker, the character, and going through a specific like event in his life, like I feel like Spider-Man 2 is the best. Like if one movie is to represent Spider-Man, I think this is it, because it kind of has everything that I think is important to making this character work. Like everything is on display in this film, and like it's on your end. You're talking about how like this movie's about when everything is like in your life is just beginning to crash down, and I've maintained this, but this movie can definitely be interpreted to being about creative burnout. Or being in a lane in your life that you don't feel that all of a sudden you may not be feeling fulfilled in. That all of a sudden that you may out where you're headed, and it's sort of about trying to figure yourself out of that hole. It's to me, it's this whole movie can be used as a metaphor for creative burnout, just as much as another favorite movie as mine, Kiki's Delivery Service. No, I strongly feel like this movie and Kiki's Delivery Service have a lot of similar DNA. They're both about young, different ages, but still younger people who have extraordinary abilities, and they try to use those abilities to help people. But eventually, everything just begins to topple down, and then they lose their powers and their abilities to do what they used to do to help people. And they're both stories about having those periods in your life and finding a way forwards. And I think that's why this movie really is really special to me back when I watched it in 2021, because I was in a time similar to that, and this movie got me out of that rut.
There you go.
It's a really easy comfort movie to watch. Like, it's pretty universal, and I think anyone can resonate with it, whether you're really into the comic book stuff or not. Honestly, it's just a quality film. But then, if you also break it down, it just works so well technically as a film. It's so well directed and so well written, and so well acted, and just everyone's on their A game in this movie. I actually wanted to go on a bit of a more technical note. I wanted to kind of make a note about the cinematography of this film. I noted this watch around. I'd always noticed this, of course, but like I just kind of put it into words. Every time Peter has a conversation with someone in this movie, it's pretty much framed in a dirty over the shoulder. So like the person that he's speaking to, their shoulder like cuts off the frame on like the opposite side that Peter's on. Like pretty much every shot. Like every time Peter's talking to someone. And you think about the feelings of isolation and separation and feelings of choice that Peter has to go through in this film. It's a very cool looking like framing for the kinds of shots that Bill Pope and Raimi are getting off. But I didn't realize until the very, very end where Peter tells MJ like they have that talk about who Peter is and like his identity and like why they can't be together. That's like when the frame kind of starts getting a little bit like closer. And you start seeing more of their faces in those sorts of shots. And then finally, at the end of the film, when you see Peter and MJ like kiss, they're like in the center of the frame together. So like throughout the film, it's like Peter is separate from everyone. When he's with MJ, they get a little bit closer, and then at the end, they're finally together in the center, which I think is super neat.
I noticed myself something about the cinematography. And it's a specific repetition of the same exact frame that's used throughout the movie. And it's a shot of, and this shot is of Peter in focus in the foreground, and then a variety of things in his background. And this shot is used several times over the course of the film. It's used when he's when like that a guy is getting mugged, and it's just all in the background, but we see Peter's reaction in the foreground. It's used when Aunt May's walking away from Uncle Ben's grave, and we see sort of Peter contemplating on what he needs to tell her. And then for a third example, it's also used in that scene you just talked about when Mary Jane first enters, because we first see her in the background with Peter in the foreground. And this is used several times throughout the movie. And it's the same thing. It's used specifically how you described to really get us into Peter Parker's head.
What a technical marvel. It's a technical marvel, like, honestly. And like I know I'm not, because I'm not a filmmaker or anything, but I could tell, like, this time, like, I know I mentioned in the previous episode that Spider-Man 1 oftentimes feels like a stage drama, and it's a good thing. I love it has the stage drama feel. But in Spider-Man 2, like, it is still that same stage drama, but Bill Pope just added that. You know what? Let's add in that cinematic feel. This was a good stage drama, but let's add the cinematic feel, the cinematic experience, and it worked well with Sam Raimi and Bill Pope, and you know, great. It's a great collaboration, magical collaboration. So there you go. So are we moving on with are we ever gonna mention so far with one of the goats, Alfred Molina, the underrated
Oh my god.
villain? Oh my god, dude!
The
With this
guy from the
rewatch,
beginning of the guy from the beginning of Raiders. Holy shit, bro!
dude, with this
My God.
rewatch, dude, this is where I really loved Otto. Like for real, like I love him in this movie. Like such an underrated portrayal of a comic book villain because he doesn't even feel like a comic book villain. It's not as talked about, but I wish people talked about like how great he is. Like Defoe, Defoe is more iconic for sure, but Molina, you just feel like it's so grounded and you just feel like it just feels more real. I feel it, man. I feel the tragedy that got beset upon him. Like he like you can tell like he's a brilliant man, but with a lot of flaws. Like he's basically the positive and negative of a scientist, like someone who's like gifted, and that I don't know the other magic that connects with it all is because that as much as Otto is like such brilliance and like excellence throughout his life, like it's Peter that actually like reminds him of the positives, someone who is also brilliant but never forgets to ground himself, and it's like even on rewatch like damn, Alfred Molina really is such a good one, and whoever casted him, great. Love him.
I love that introductory scene where we really get to see him with his wife and all that stuff.
Mhm.
It's like you really like you get this amazing portrait of this man like before the accident, and like I think they do a lot of really good stuff here like with the character because they want to make a lot of like modern Doc Ock has now become sort of a character that a Spider-Man adaptation wants to make more explicitly redeemable, more
Mhm.
sympathetic. And other versions have done it. I don't think any version has done it better than what Raimi did back in 2004 because I feel like the idea that the arms themselves have a specific AI that's pushing him in the direction, I low-key love that idea. I think
Mm.
that's a better idea than him. Like, I enjoy the PS4 version, but like Doc Ock just kind of becoming evil because of it's just because of the deterioration or whatever, and not something that specific. I like how specific. Oh, it's the arms that have like an AI within them that are guiding him. They're in his
Yeah.
brain. I love that.
The arms feel like a monster, like Raimi gave them each their own names and like they each had their own puppeteer and like they kind of each had their own personalities. Like they were like the arms were the real villain, like of the movie.
God, that
and-
Evil Dead esque
Yeah.
arms horror scene.
Very
Before we
well.
touch on that, I did want to say I really
Uh.
love how Otto is kind of like this look Peter, it's like a reflection of Peter in the future and a
Mhm.
potential future of what he could be with Mary Jane. And he sees that like even that first scene where they meet up and they're together, like they even are dressed very similarly. Peter's in blue, he's in red, Otto's in red. And they kind of look a little similar. They're both, Otto's wife Rosie is redhead like Mary Jane, which isn't like a lot, but it's like, he's a successful scientist who kind of has the life that Peter seems to want, and he is a good man, but he's corrupted by a force that's outside of his control. It's like if he got the Spider-Man powers, but the Spider-Man powers made you evil or something. Pretty cool. I think, yeah. Honestly, I would say this is maybe the best modern reinterpretation of a comic book villain.
Mhm.
Potentially.
Yeah. I won't push back on that.
I mean, the shot of Otto like crafting something and then lights up a cigar. Goes hard, not gonna lie. I was watching that movie. I was like, yeah, that goes hard, not gonna lie.
That is hard as fuck.
Raimi made that look really cool, I will admit.
Also, stepping back for a second, I wanted to say, what a fucking opening this movie has. Oh my god. Oh my god, it's so good. Like, it just sets up everything you need to know about this movie so well in such a short amount of time. And it's also just so fun and memorable and
the
exciting.
Alex Ross art is also beautiful from the credits. We haven't touched on that. I was like, wow. Beautiful art. They really went for it, They doubled down.
Oh yeah.
Let's double down on it. Doc Ock theme is also good. Like, honestly, like the drama is great. Like everything is elevated. Like literally Sam Raimi was like, I'm gonna give you the highest of highs and the lowest of lows of Peter Parker. Let's go.
Well, dude, like I feel like it all sort of culminates. Like of course, we have a lot of great build up to it. We have a lot of great build up scenes because, of course we got the first few scenes is basically a day in Peter Parker's life, his birthday, where we just sort of get a slow sort of introduction. It's like, okay, he's fired for the police place. Things are the Bugle. He's doing terrible in school, and then we sort of get like that whole, focusing in on his supporting cast at his birthday party. And that's a very succinct like sort of vision of what's to come. But for me, like I feel like I know I said I don't want to pick like a favorite scene, but this is like I feel like if there's like a more key scene to what everything that this movie had been building up to at that point, it's the planetarium scene, which is like this perfect symphony of everything beating down on Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Like this perfect, like every single thing is coming down on him from all corners. And it's kind of beautiful because I feel like every single person on this planet has had days that felt exactly like that planetarium scene.
Yeah.
Where you think you had it handled, but every single fucking thing is just hitting you and you have no way to get up from it.
Oh yeah, it's probably my favorite scene, maybe. But it's one of the most memorable for sure. Like, yeah, it's.
I mean, it's even like fairly detailed. Like the way how Raimi even sets it up, wherein like Peter's trying to get drinks, he can't get a drink. Peter tries to get food, like the simplest things he can't even get. Like it's a party and he can't even get even the simplest of things. And that's a nice detail that he actually did. So yeah, Raimi really like.
When he finally gets a drink, it's empty.
And it's even empty. It's nothing. Like I don't know. Raimi really, planned this thing out. Like that's the genius of what he did.
Peter Parker cannot catch a break.
Yeah, and that scene is followed right up with like Spider-Man no more in him basically having to put his powers aren't working. He's having to put a like damper on it all. And I've seen people say it's like they don't like how he just sort of just loses his powers without any plot relevance, and I think that's a dumb take. But like, because in fact that's like one of my favorite things about this entire movie. Like other superhero movies, like the hero loses his powers through a brave sacrifice, or the villain takes them away in some kind of plot. But I feel like this is what fundamentally makes Spider-Man such a better character than any of the rest. Spider-Man, Peter Parker, loses his powers because his mental state is fucking awry. That's amazing. That's amazing that like you have a superhero whose powers are tied to his mental state. Because like if all of us like all of us, our abilities are how well we're performing are applied to how much we're in our heads and whether we're depressed or not. And like I just love that this movie sort of takes that same like angle that we all have felt in our lives, and just applies it to what being a superhero like. If you have all of these real world human problems.
Mhm.
Totally, man. I'm there with you. Yeah, dude, those it's so real and so like I don't know, it just this is a movie that I think was very popular at the time it came out because and the reason these movies did as well as they did is because they just were this universal.
Yeah.
You know, like they were like anyone could watch these movies and be like, yeah, he just like me for real.
I mean, I remember like I watched a bit of like the documentary and the special features of this movie, and like I there's one of the things that I wrote down was like what Stan Lee said, where he said that when he was trying to do Spider-Man, like the publishers, like the people, they only want to see like the hero fighting the villain, and they're not really interested in seeing the other stuff, like the more personal and human dynamic stuff. And honestly, it's honestly way more engaging as like to watch like a personal story rather than just like seeing all the actions. Granted, like the action sequences in this movie are like exciting, exhilarating, like it's the perfect blend of like action and drama. And I think that's why I think we all agree that this is the best superhero ever made, because it's such a perfect blend of those things. And I wish like we get more of these things, but with the current landscape that we have, it's they're just gems. We barely get these types of things
Yeah,
nowadays.
and like, but those real moments of drama, because okay, I kind of like my last viewing, I kind of came to like
Hmm.
this realization, like, dude, Tobey Maguire's performance in that scene where Peter confesses to Aunt May, I think is the best out of a scene. It's the best lead performance in a superhero movie.
Mm.
Like, I personally don't think there's any like comic book movie where I'm thinking of the lead having a scene that's that fucking hard.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
and
raw and it's real. It's
there's so
up
few
close.
cuts. Like, the
Yeah.
majority of the story, it's just Peter talking, and then you cut to Aunt May, and it's just like it's a scene that's kind of like all relies on performance, and like Tobey Maguire's voice doesn't really have even a twinge of its usual of a higher pitch. It's just all very low and real, and just so well performed by him.
Dude, and the cut to when Peter puts his hand out and Aunt May pulls her hand away.
Yeah.
Dude,
The,
fuck.
the thing that's way more impactful for me on that scene was when she just walks out and we just stay on Peter on like that table, having already said what he wanted to said like all these years. Dude, I teared up, man. I think we
And
all teared
honestly,
up in that moment.
I honestly do like that Aunt May. I love Aunt May's reaction to
Mhm.
that scene because
Yeah.
she can't respond to him in the moment, but she loves him and forgives him anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And doesn't but in that moment she just needs to leave and needs her space. But and they don't really acknowledge it. It just kind of happens, and you get to see Peter like understand. Oh wait, I'm okay with Aunt May now. Like you get to see that in real time, and it's so great and it's so sweet.
I mean, both. And this is Rosemary Harris is definitely the best Aunt May.
Mhm.
I mean, hell, she was like 95 years old, and she was out on the SAG strike, picket lines last year. If
Oh
you
yeah.
remember, she's awesome. And
She's
she's
the
so
goat.
good in this, especially in the "Everyone Needs a Hero" speech, because that's another beautiful, beautiful scene
Mhm.
that I just come back to again and again. Like, if I need a little bit of inspiration, if I just need the right push to do the right thing, even though it might kind of suck, it's kind of like the perfect. I mean, I know every single in the scene in this is kind of perfect, and so there's so many different ones we can choose from, but it's just it's so powerful, and it just does everything it needs to, because so many lines in that speech are brought back throughout the movie. That speech by Aunt May is kind of like the central thesis for the film in a way.
Mm.
And it's also the push that brings Peter to, to push Peter to kind of become Spider-Man again.
Yeah, and then also like Aunt May's speech literally saves the day as well. Like it brings back Otto to basically like, hey, dude, literally like the whole like you have to be steady, and sometimes you have to give up the things you want the most, like even our dreams.
Well,
You
basically,
know?
so at the very end of the film, at the climax between Peter and Doc Ock,
Mhm.
basically, he just sort of gives up on fighting. Basically, Peter uses everything that he learned over the course of the film to talk to Doc Ock in that moment. He brings back little bits that he's learned from all these people in his path to that specific moment, and that's how he saves the day. It's not by beating his fists really hard. It's by sitting down with the villain, empathizing with what he's trying to achieve, but also just letting him know what he's learned over the course of his journey over the film, and just reaching out and being able to have this moment to where Dr. Octopus is ready to redeem himself.
Mm.
It's so well done. It's again, I keep going back to the dialogue in this movie, but I love how much of it is so purposeful and always coming back around. There's so many key lines in this that are brought back with either a different context or a more emphasized one. It's so good.
It's a Wonderful Life, but with Spider-Man.
Yeah,
It's Kiki's delivery service with Spider-Man.
it's a wonderful Spider-Man.
It's a Wonderful Life, Spider-Man. I don't know.
Spider-Man's delivery service.
I mean, yeah, I meant, yeah, it's like last episode. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. That's Spider-Man 1 for me, but this one for me, it's a Wonderful Life, but it's Spider-Man 2. Like literally, it's all there, people. Like Peter
Also,
Parker
I
is George Bailey.
also really love the fire scene in this movie because it's the
Hmm.
one scene that during the period in the film where Peter doesn't have his powers, it's something that I think I've seen people say is kind of repetitive compared to the first one, but it's deliberately
No.
repetitive because it's mirroring how easy a specific experience was for him as Spider-Man in the
Spider-Man.
first film, and comparing him trying to do that same thing just as Peter Parker, and realizing at a point what he's missing out on, what he's lost by trying to just focus on being himself.
Yeah.
And
Also, no, go ahead, continue.
well, yeah, and then we have that chocolate cake scene, which I know would be cut from any modern equivalent of this film, but it's so perfect.
Yeah.
It's so perfect for like character, and it's also just sort of giving him like this little moment like of zen, of like someone caring enough to ask him if he'd like some cake. Because I did notice that like earlier in this movie, he's like throwing his birthday cake away, right? Like he's like almost rejecting the kindness that is cake. But then later in the films, someone actually thinks to offer him some, and it's a sweet little moment. I really like it.
Which kind of also like you can connect to like the people like helping back with like Spider-Man, where where after he saves the people on the train, excellent excellent scene. We all love that scene.
Oh,
We're in like
it's
mhm,
one of the best scenes of all time.
yeah, and basically
It's
yeah,
heroism conveyed in cinema. Yeah.
one of like his biggest tests, but literally like after that like amazing train sequence, like the people are also giving back. Like they're like if Peter Parker got a cake, in that one the love of the people, the support of the people is the one that he gets. Like the fact that they're not even going to tell others that they saw his face. Like they're giving something back to Spider-Man.
Because
Peter
this
Parker got a
movie,
cake and he got the yeah,
people say
sorry.
this movie is unrelentingly beating down on Peter Parker, but at the same time, this movie never just goes full on mean spirited. It's all for a purpose, and it's all to remind Peter what is the point of being a hero. And when it's these little moments where it's all worth it. These little moments where he knows what he's doing matters because these people are rallying in support of him. They care because he showed them how much he cared. And every time like that guy comes forwards and like Peter realizes his mask is off and he like looks horrified. Every time that guy comes forward and said, "Hey, it's all right," I tear up. Like it's like this perfect little scene where he's like so fearful and like, you know, everything has been beating down, and now that he's finally back as Spider-Man, he thinks that it's all over again. But these people just, because he saved them, because he went to the absolute limits of his strength to be able to give them that, they you know, it's beautiful. And I love it that they don't know him. You know, they don't know who this kid is, but they just know that he saved their lives.
It's their way to thank him as well. Like literally after like saving like every single one of them, his self-sacrificing, you know, for the good of mankind. There you go.
Yeah, something Jesus imagery
with the poopy face. Also, shut up, people with the poopy face, dude. If I was that in that train, I would also be doing the poopy face too. Like, can you imagine? Like, dude, I will, dude. It hurts.
Yeah, no. I've tested this out. That's just the face you'll naturally make because I've been able to do it in the gym where I can recreate like the train scene as a workout, where like I'm drawing from 2 lines of weights, from you know, just a decent thing, and I just have to bring them together like you know, sort of Spider-Man is doing, and you know, you'll make that face. That's just how it does, you know.
Yeah.
Toby has some great faces in these movies.
Oh yeah. But at the same time, I appreciate that like nobody in my screening was like laughing at those faces because they understand the moment and they care.
Dude, like you know the difference. Like in my screening of Spider-Man 1, everyone was laughing because like some of the dialogue are like the memes and everything. In Spider-Man 2, it's a different experience. They don't honestly like really laugh at it because it's Spider-Man 2. Like
this shit
it's
ain't
everything. Yeah, they can't really like joke on this movie because it's really like hard hitting.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, and they're laughing at the scenes that are funny because like there are some funny scenes in this movie.
Definitely.
Like the comedy in this is genuinely better than a lot of movies that are trying to be comedies the whole time.
I mean, just Mr. Aziz, you know, screaming "Cool!" I love it. I love it. I love it so much.
Like every line out of J. Jonah Jameson in this film is gold. Like
the
it's
laugh.
all perfect.
Oh my god. And like honestly, good moments were in the crowd cheers. Like literally, it's not annoying where everyone has to like cheer every single time. The amount of cheers are like at the perfect timing. It's just good.
These movies are theatrical events.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they did feel like theatrical events.
I mean, I've said this before, but seeing this movie in a theater twice in 1 week was a religious experience. It really was. It was like I don't know, going to the 5 p.m. Christmas Eve service and then coming back for midnight mass. You know?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to do it. Sometimes you're just in the zone.
You just need to lock in, and yeah, honestly, really great experience. Really glad I got to see it, and seeing it in 35mm too. Gotta say again, that was, if you ever get the chance to see Spider-Man 2 in 35mm, take that chance.
That's the way to go.
That's the way to go.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
Amazing movie.
Amazing movie.
Wow.
Can we talk about how many great transitions are in this film?
Oh yeah.
like there's a transition from like the spider logo, and there's of course the transition that I think is posted like once a week on Twitter and gets 10,000 likes, where it's a transition from the newspaper page of Spider-Man swinging out of it, and then we
back,
have a
baby.
long uncut shot of him swinging through the city that then zooms into Dr. Octopus's sunglasses. That is sauce right there.
If you catch me posting that on Twitter for retweets, keep scrolling or retweet.
No, but dude, my entire theater cheered like it was a fucking
here.
Avengers Endgame at that scene. Because he's back, and like the second is like he's back, and Spider-Man bursts through, like the whole theater went woo. It was awesome.
We're so back.
We are so back.
We haven't even touched upon like the brilliance of the raindrops keep falling on my head. See?
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Masterful, right?
This is balls on a filmmaker.
When they did the freeze frame, like the audiences were actually clapping because it was really amazing. An amazing montage of events. Loved it. I don't know. Raimi really cooked. They all cooked.
Also, the music choice in this movie is always great. Like I love all the songs in this film. Like they always, like from "Hold On" by Jet to "Vindicated" by Dashboard Confessional. I feel like they all perfectly fit the vibe of what this movie is.
Totally, yeah. Again, all a cohesive vision, all very cohesive and in theme and make sense with each other.
Also, I have a question. Are we all ready to basically proclaim that Mary Jane did nothing wrong in this movie? She's actually valid for her feelings. And
no, I was actually just about to bring that up. She gets the amount of hate that Mary Jane gets is fucking ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The amount of people that are just so ready to like hate on her and say, "Oh, she's terrible with Peter." I hate it's low key infuriating because it's hard to see so many people with just absolute any like speck of media literacy.
But Castleman, she's too mean. Mary Jane was too mean.
Well, yeah, because all the women in their lives are mean to them, I guess. Like, I feel like you get a lot of arguments from the same type of person who really wants to go in about how terrible Mary Jane Watson is. But, and they're all very, very wrong, because I feel like the most important thing anybody can do with this movie is look at it all from Mary Jane's perspective. Because I feel like that says plenty. Because, a guy who you told that you were in love with him basically has, I guess, only becomes slight friends with you, but still sort of indicates that he's interested in you, but is just sort of constantly just sort of, pushing you back and forth. Won't settle on anything, won't commit. And it's just like, he's sticking to what the decision he made not to be with her, but he hasn't let her go at all, and she's sort of dealing with this wishy-washy in between that he's doing.
Yeah. I think people are definitely far too hard on Mary Jane, and I think they don't really try to see this movie from her side. But I think, I think it's great that this movie starts and ends with the frames of her face.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's a neat parallel. And I think the movie is so perfect because of that last shot of Mary Jane, where she looks bittersweet out onto Peter as he swings, and kind of realizes maybe she hadn't thought through her decision so much.
Yeah, it's the graduate shot for.
I was about to say, it's like the final shot of The Graduate, where she's sort of understanding, like, I just ran out on, because people give her shit for running out on her husband, but I felt like that scene that's in 2.1 definitely gives a lot more context on how she's feeling about her husband or her fiance. Because like he's like generically everything that she thinks she wants, but she just doesn't. Like, she's willing to run out from the altar from him because she knows that even though Peter Parker is Spider-Man, like, there's something wonderful about that, because I love that it's not Peter's decision with MJ. She reinforces that she deserves a say in the matter. And I fucking adore that line. Isn't it sometimes somebody saved your life? Because, like, finally Peter Parker is... bit by bit, Peter Parker's given these moments of love, just little bits of appreciation for who he is and what he's done. And it's just this final little moment where, like, probably if Mary Jane hadn't left that altar, like, I feel like this version of Peter Parker would probably just continued on and been a sort of a lone figure, never really trying to engage too much with humanity, but always trying to save them. Just sort of resigned to the task he has because he's so worried about getting people in trouble. But in a way, this is Mary that no, I need to save him from that reality. I need to save him from that possibility of just being this alone figure trying to help people, because figures like that deserve someone to support them and love them.
It's also just like this beautiful parallel to the last moment of the first movie, where she professes her love and gets rejected, but in this time she affirms both their love, and she's the one that leads it and takes the charge and makes sure that. And I always think about the why should we live half a life, comment like thing she says. And just, yeah, it hits. It's a very emotional and just kind of like the perfect ending, and bittersweet in all the right ways.
Beautiful movie.
Beautiful movie.
Beautiful
motion picture.
Yeah.
Did it get nominated for stuff? I think it did, right?
It won an Oscar.
It won
It
Best
did,
Visual
right?
Effects, yeah.
Yeah, it won Best VFX.
I mean, but like the way that this movie's crafted is immaculate, because like I just love the battle damage, like the way that you can track it as it progresses throughout, especially that third act.
It got ripped to shreds, man. It got ripped to shreds.
And like Raimi always does that, because it almost feels like it's his way of coming as a horror person. Okay, if I can't drench the hero in blood to show them how much they've been through, then I'm gonna fucking destroy their costume to make it look like they've been beaten to the shreds, And
it looks great.
Oh, it always does. I think my favorite battle damage look is the one in this movie, definitely, because like his mask is still intact. The other two, his mask are sort of broken, but this one but his mask is still intact. It's the rest of his costume that's kind of decaying and frayed.
Like, I like even in the detail, like in the lenses, right? Like that one's damaged as well. That one's cool. I like that one too.
I actually do prefer the battle damage in the first one, but but to be fair, like I think the battle damage in the second one makes sense. Like I think Peter needs the mask, like for the reveal specifically. So.
Oh yeah,
they couldn't really
do a lot of great job with like. Remember when superhero had identities that were like a big deal when characters found them out? Like I feel like there's moments of this movie where it's like, holy shit, Harry now knows who's Spider-Man. Holy shit, Doc Ock knows who's Spider-Man, and then holy shit, Peter and Mary Jane are finally seeing each other, like as they really are, and like there's so much lovely drama and emotion that's conjured from these moments, and it's just kind of funny how little movies since then have wanted to do anything with secret identities.
I agree with that. Well, do we have anything else that we want to touch on?
Avenge me.
Avenge me! Oh, great Willem Dafoe cameo.
He's like, son.
Great Willem Dafoe cameo.
I love how like that scene is integrated within the film itself and isn't post credits. I mean, of course,
Yeah,
post-credits,
normally nowadays they put it on the post credits, right? Or the
it's
mid
just part of the
credits.
movie, and it sets up the next film brilliantly and gets you engaged without needing you to, necessarily take you out of it. I feel like it's a good inclusion scene, and I feel like it's teasing what's left to come in a sense that makes sense for the character, because like that sort of concludes what Harry Osborn's arc has been happening over the course of the film. So yeah, all of these scenes are very much the connective tissue that are like, bringing this full sort of story to fruition.
Yeah.
God. Yeah. I think okay. This is same as last time. Everything. Movie tote bag, everything. Spider-Man 2 VHS, everything. Honestly.
This is,
I'm giving this everything, man. A 5 bang
IMAX baseball
everything.
cap.
IMAX baseball letterbox
If
cap.
everybody checks off my letterbox and my Doppio podcast list, this is currently number 1. I don't think that's going to change somebody time soon, because I currently rank this as my favorite movie of all time. I'm in there with Emil. This is my favorite film, which may change, but depending on when I next watch Lord of the Rings. But for now, I gotta say this movie, because this movie means everything to me, and it's so well made and perfect.
I mean, the fact that you had a religious experience, man, says it all.
I
Like,
did.
if you have a religious experience with a movie, that's definitely something to be like,
Yeah.
this is a top.
I think I had a little bit more of a religious experience the first time, because the first time that was like best theater experience of my life. The second time I still had a good time, but I will say I was sitting next to this dude who I never heard him talking. All right. But I would hear him like squeak in his seat like every 30 seconds to like turn, and so he could turn and whisper directly into his friend. So like I didn't hear what he was saying. He was being quiet enough, but at the same time he was moving a lot, and he kept like whispering over and over again. Which, isn't an ideal experience, but you know what? At least he was doing that instead of just talking loudly like some other assholes might do.
That's true.
At least he appreciated that Spider-Man 2 is enough of a religious experience. And he also just seemed really into the movie, so I didn't bother him.
I mean, it's impossible not to really get into like the movie, like to be immersed into the beauty of like Spider-Man 2. It's definitely impossible.
Yeah, it's movie makes you lock in.
Yeah, everything was going great until Avi knew all.
Yeah, Avi knows all.
What do you mean Avi?
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there when Avi knows all.
We'll get there.
When Avi strikes back.
So, do we have anything else to say on Spider-Man 2?
I love Spider-Man 2.
I'm sure I do. Just check. I had a lot of notes for this, like more notes than I've written for any other movie. So I'm just studying this list of notes, making sure there's nothing else that I need to talk about.
The greatest movie of all time.
Yeah, the greatest movie ever made, baby.
You want to talk about how it's the greatest movie of all time for a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you lay them all out, if you put all the movies out, if you gave me, like, a would you rather watch any movie or Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 2 wins every time, in my opinion, at least.
More than End of Evangelion.
Sometimes end of Evangelion. But that's like, if you give me that choice, my brain kind of explodes. So let's not talk about that right now.
Yeah, I think for me it's that same option, but between Lord of the Rings and Spider-Man 2. And now, having had this experience with Spider-Man 2 in the theater, I'm leaning towards Spider-Man 2, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, at the moment, like, this movie kind of has everything I could possibly really want from a movie. Like, it has every single amount of gravitas and drama and emotion and comedy, and it has everything. Like, it has it has action. The action in this movie is absolutely stunning. Like, it's so inventive, and they do so many cool things with it. Since Sam Raimi's constantly having women scream at the camera to, I guess, drum up the emotion of everything. It's always, this movie's always good.
Yeah, it's consistently good.
More than good, great, man. It's great.
It's amazing. In fact, they made something truly amazing with this movie. And in terms of superhero movies, I feel like the one movie that came out recently that kind of feels like it could be on this level is The Batman, which I think we all might enjoy. But just in a larger sort of scale, I just don't feel like we would ever get a movie like this ever again. Like, I would love to. I would love it if Marvel would stop, having their hands on everything, and just give more house style points to, like, directors who just really care.
I mean, honestly, like, this, like, Marvel with Spider-Man 2 and, like, DC with, honestly, like, you mentioned the Batman, but wouldn't you also, like, kind of relate it to, like, the Dark Knight? Because, like, if you watch the Dark Knight, like, back then, that would be like, this is something that you've never actually seen before. And that basically, both of those films, they're different entities from different, like, companies, but they basically delivering something that's very different and very life-changing if you watch it the very first time in your life.
Yeah. I mean, this is life-changing. I feel like this movie is something that's really powerful and has a lot of things to say about, even though it's a superhero movie, it has a lot to say about the human condition. And I think that makes it cinema. Like, cinema at the very purest of its soul.
Add it to the Criterion Collection.
I mean, when you guys, when you guys get to the Criterion closet, please request it. Emil, Joseph, request it once you guys get invited.
Spider-Man 1 and 2 on Criterion. I feel like that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, just throw Spider-Man 3 in there just to get the reactions.
Is it worth it to be on the collection, though?
So they can do the box set of the whole trilogy, the Spider-Man trilogy on Criterion.
Imagine having that sticker, like, director approved Sam Raimi.
Dude, I would buy that shit right away.
Yeah. Dude, I would buy that full price for sure. Like, I'd pre-order that.
A supervised remaster from Sam Raimi.
Dude.
My God. Instant pre-order, yeah, definitely, for sure. God.
Yeah.
What a picture.
That would be the dream. If we could, like, really get these movies to have almost like an artistic legacy, that would be lovely. I mean,
they kind of deserve it. I mean, they were the godfather of the superhero genre.
I mean, literally, didn't they describe Spider-Man 2 as, like, one of the blueprints of, like, if you're gonna make a superhero movie, that this is literally the blueprint. Spider-Man 2 is one of the blueprints.
I think that Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1 and 2 are the Godfather Part 1 and 2 of the superhero genre.
And Spider-Man 3 is the Godfather.
The Godfather Part 3.
Yeah, the editor's cut is the Godfather Coda.
Yeah, the death of Marcus Corleone.
Oh God.
Hey, whatever works,
We really connect the Godfather to Spider-Man. I mean, hey, they're both set in New York. They're set in New York.
There you go. They're both set in New York. I'm sure there's other connections if we look hard enough.
There we go.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've yapped about Spider-Man for about an hour.
And we'll be back next week.
Okay, so we're
with
about halfway
the
through, right?
greatest one, right?
We're about halfway through.
Yeah.
Are we ahead?
Let's go on. Come on, like I know I'm exhausted right now, but I give me the eye of the tiger, and I'll talk about this movie for 5 more days straight. I don't care. This movie is just sort of
I
perfect.
mean, you hit the jackpot. You know, we hit the jackpot with this.
We in this universe specifically hit the jackpot because of Spider-Man 2. Because we live in a universe where Spider-Man 2 exists. Like if I ever got stuck in an alternate universe, I know I would not belong there if I found out that Spider-Man didn't exist in that world, you know. But specifically Spider-Man 2 because that is the best one.
God.
And yeah, no, this I love this movie so much.
The perfect pizza movie.
Yeah. I have nothing left except Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, I did get pizza before I saw this movie. I walked. I had a showtime for 7 p.m. I walked into Mellow Mushroom at 6:07 and said, "Hey, I got a movie showtime for 7 p.m. Any chance I can eat before then?" And they're like, "No problems. Just go straight to the counter." I sat at the counter and like they immediately took my order. My food was to me in 10 minutes. I was out that door by 6:37. It was fantastic and really good pizza as always. So like, you know, that was a good experience.
I passed by Joe's Pizza. I passed by Joe's Pizza on the way over. It was pretty cool. I didn't go in, but I literally walked by it. It was right next to the theater.
And 29. You go to school.
29-minute guarantee.
Theater does.
Yeah, doxed in this episode. I got doxed in the Spider-Man 2 episode. Oh no.
But shit, I forgot.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Doxed.
Emil, your paper on fusion is still overdue.
Planning is not a major at this university. I can confirm planning is not a major at Columbia University. Unfortunately.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Really? Wow. Connors is right.
Just like me for real. 100%.
Literally just like me for real.
I mean, just the shot of Peter Parker going home in his apartment, tired, sitting on his bed.
I do wonder how this podcast episode is going to play out, because this is the most exhausted I've ever been recording this. Because for context, guys, I just got off like a weekend trip, and we started recording as soon as I got home. So I'll be curious to see how if exhausted Castleman changed the vibe on this.
We're at the train,
Peter
man.
Parker right now.
You're at the train. You're stopping the train.
Oh boy,
the fast-moving train.
Maybe that's why I'm so tired.
God, what a picture! What a picture!
Yeah.
I wish Vancouver added more screenings to this. Honestly, I don't know. I would have liked to see this at my local independent theater more than like my typical like Cineplex, because I think the crowd would just be better for that, you know. Maybe when I visit over there, maybe I should put a paper, because we can request movies in like my local independent theater. What if I just put Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy? Oh man.
And hey, like I feel like these movies will be a lot more readily available for like movie theaters to play because of the re-releases, right?
Yeah, they'll have a version that they can distribute.
Exactly, they'll have an actual version of the films that they can distribute, so that I feel like it'll be way easier to start seeing these in movie theaters before, because before this point, I could never find a screening of this.
Yeah, they just didn't screen this movie like ever.
Yeah.
I would like regularly ask around theaters about it, and they just wouldn't.
Yeah, and even since like I think Sony just majorly undervalued how much the attention that this movie would bring if re-released. They should have just sprang for the full for the full wide release because I guarantee it would have made more than Madam Web.
Which, by the way, Madam Web used the Spider-Man 2 apparently
Yeah,
for no reason, which I do not understand. Having seen Madam Web,
Yeah, I have also seen Madam Web.
unfortunately, well, fortunately, I will say that was a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since we're far on it on this episode, I'm gonna swear, but this connects to the fire sequence in Spider-Man 2. Whoever did the post where the little girl that Peter Parker saves in this movie was Ned's grandmother in No Way Home. To that person who did that post, fuck you. That was a Korean girl, not a Filipino girl. Just correcting.
all
That
right,
was
then
offensive.
that
That was
was
offensive on
Renzo's
my end.
that was Renzo's public service announcement. Thank you, Renzo.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
That was a
Renzo.
Korean girl, not a
Fuck that
Filipino
guy.
girl. Fuck that guy, definitely. We're far on in. I can swear.
Yeah.
Fuck racists.
Yeah. Fuck racism.
God.
Yeah. What a way to end the Spider-Man 2 episode.
Yeah, right.
Pretty rare, but we love Spider-Man.
But at the end of the day,
of
aren't we
course.
all trying to do better?
Yeah.
Yes, trying to be better. And the next one we're the end game of Spider-Man. Spider-Man Endgame. Hell yeah.
Next one, we might be in a dark era. Who knows?
We might be in a symbiote saga. I'll be yapping a lot more in the next one, I think. I
No,
have some
you
very
won't.
strong
Till you
opinions.
fix this damn door. We're getting there. We're close. We're close there. We're getting there.
We're getting there. I can't wait.
Maybe there's some revisionism that's gonna happen. We'll see.
Bully Kafka.
No.
Bully Renzo exists
No.
out of his coma.
No. Alrighty.
Well, thanks to everybody for listening to us talk about Spider-Man 2 for this long.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate it. This movie means a lot to us. I hope it means a lot to you.
Yeah.
Yep. And
If it doesn't mean a lot to you, then I hope it does eventually.
Yes.
And as I always say, there it is.